This is Ernest with Team Zero Time. Hey, today I've got a 2006 Sterling with an MBE4000. I'm going to perform a kind of a basic health test, engine health test on this tractor. You know, I can go as far as you want me to go with it. You know, you bring your truck in or whatever, you call me up and then I go check this truck. There's just different ways that we can do this. But I will say that you bring me a truck and you're having a reoccurring after treatment problem. Let's say you clean that DPF, you know, it seems like every 3 months you turn around, you're doing it. With that DPF, we take it off, we clean it, we put it back, clears the check engine light, it will do that, okay? I mean, if that's what it is, it will do that, and that's it. The problem is, that was just a symptom. The actual cause wasn't repaired, right? So this is why a month later, 2 months later, 3 months later, whatever it is, this is why you're doing it again, okay? I mean, all we fixed was the symptom. We never actually fixed the cause, but because it was a code and because it cleared the light, that made it the cause. Not true. 85% of the times, it's gonna come from the engine, okay? So I will do tests like this and more to try to figure out where the problem's coming from, okay? So one of the first tests I'm gonna do is a relative compression test. Right off the bat, I'm gonna figure out if I got leaking cylinders or not. So that's what I got right here behind me. Let me get you to look at it right quick. This is a relative compression test. What I do is I hook up an amp clamp to the battery, and right now I am connected to injector number 2 or unit pump number 2, you know, for a marker. Okay, so if I have a problem with the cylinder, I'm going to see it right here. We got a piston rings leaking, valves leaking, something. And we're, you know, so pressure is going to go somewhere. So we're going to be low here, and then we're going to have to find it somewhere else. This one's actually pretty good. All the peaks are pretty consistent all the way across. Just kind of show you. We'll bring down a ruler. Okay, as you can see, they're pretty even. The peaks, that's where the starter is having to work the hardest. It's pulling more amps because we're pulling that piston's getting to the top and we're compressing that air, so it's going to have to work harder. So we're going to pull more amps, and this is why you got the peak. And then it reached the top dead center, and then it came down, so it spun a little bit fast, and then we started on the next cylinder and go on, so on and so forth, right? So the yellow marker, this trace right here, this is my reference, this is my trigger, and I'm at unit pump number 2. So if we know the firing order, then we'll know what's going on here. So this is cylinder number 2, okay? So it's 153624. So this is 2, 4, 1, 5, 3, 6, and then we're back at 2. Does that make sense? 720-degree rotation. Crankshaft has to turn twice to complete the 4 strokes. All right, so right here, we're good. Cylinders are sealing as they should, okay? It's a relatively quick test to do in most cases. It takes a little bit of work because we do have to disconnect the fuel system. We don't want it to start, okay? So then we'll move on to the next. Okay, so this one here is the crankcase pressure. Basically, we're measuring blow-by. So in this one, we're looking at the humps or the peaks that are going up, all right? Again, we're using a delta pressure sensor. We're not measuring the absolute pressure. We're just measuring what the differences are, okay? So as you can see, again, they're all pretty even all the way across, all right? We'll look for things, not that it really makes a difference, but we'll look at things like this one's a little bit lower, all right? This one's a little bit lower. This one's a little bit lower. They mean that they're not putting as much blow-by into the crankcase as the rest of them, okay? So, but this one's normal, this one's consistent. We have a really good engine. This engine's got almost 500,000 miles on it, and I gotta tell you, it's in pretty good shape. So, but those are things that we're looking for. You're having a regen problem, right? After treatment problem, you got DPF problem, all right? Well, it's collecting soot. And there's a reason it's collecting soot. We have leaking injector, we have leaking valves, we have leaking piston rings, we got worn camshafts, worn rocker arms, EGR coolers or EGR valve is leaking, you know, something to that effect. It's coming from somewhere. Somebody is not doing their job. Okay, these tests will help me to figure out where the problem's at, right? And I just wanted to give you an idea. This is what we do, right? This is how we go about it. Now I'm in the intake. I want to look at the intake valves. I want to see what's going on. With the cranking, the relative compression test, we didn't see anything wrong with that one. So we're good. As far as we know, we don't have any leaks, which is good, okay? So on this one, I'm gonna do a intake pressure test. Keep in mind, I am using a delta P sensor. It's measuring the difference. It's not absolute pressure, it's measuring the difference. But on this one, we're gonna look at the bottom of the waveform. We're gonna look, the peaks are gonna be at the bottom because we're pulling vacuum, so it's gonna pull it down, and that's what we're looking at, okay? And again, what we're gonna see is that they're pretty even all the way across. With this test, I could also look for maybe rocker arms out of adjustment, maybe a worn camshaft lobe. Of course, we were looking for leaks if we saw something in the cranking waveform. But here we're looking at more like, I guess you could say like timing. We want to see if those valves are doing what they're supposed to. If that engine is breathing the way it's supposed to, right? So we got a rocker arm that's messed up. We got a cam lobe that's messed up. We might see pulls down, but it doesn't pull it very far. So we're going to be short. So that's a good indication that we have a worn rocker arm or camshaft lobe or something like that. Just different ways that we can look at it. So anyway, let's look at this and see what we see here. Okay, so again, my yellow trace, that's the I'm connected to unit pump number 2, so that's a reference point. Only I'm cranking this thing. I don't have fuel in it. I don't want it to start, but the ECM is trying to start it. It's looking for something. So my markers are kind of erratic. I don't really like that, but at any rate, that's where we're at. But again, I don't have any problems because if you look at the bottom, you know, and the bottom is what I'm looking at. You know, if I got that marker all the way across, I don't have any problems, right? I mean, they're all pretty good there. We have one that might be a little bit short. I mean, it's just barely. I have another one right here. But, you know, keep in mind, we're only looking at 6 of these. And which ones are the 6, I don't really know at this point. But if I saw something wrong, then I would figure out a better way to use it as a reference so that I can figure out which cylinder it was. I do this kinds of testing in ways to try to help you save money, and it helps me save time. You know, I don't have to go open up the valve cover. I don't have to do all these things guessing to try to figure out what's going on. What I'm going to do is see as much as I can from the outside without tearing it apart, okay? And these things help me to do that. We're a lot more accurate in our diagnostics because we can actually see things happening. I don't know about you guys, but I'm more of a visual person. Charts, graphs, and things like that work. For you guys that, you know, you're looking at the OEM software, the, you know, diagnostic link or whatever, and you're pulling up data. I mean, you have to pull up a lot of data, and then you have to, you know, you're watching those numbers, and, you know, it's hard to keep up with all that, right? I can't do it. So things like this help me. So again, we're looking at this, and we don't see anything wrong. If I saw something wrong, well, then I'd start doing a different test. You know, I'd go different route. So one of the other things I'm going to check, because I'm right here already, now I'm going to check the crankcase pressure and see what we've got there. Right? We know that we're good on the valve side, so let's see what we got going on in the crankcase. We're going to check the piston rings now, and again, we won't really see a whole lot because our relative compression test didn't tell us that we had a lot of leaks. Now every engine has blow by. I mean, they're just designed that way. They have to be that way, right? I don't have excessive blow-by on this engine, but it can help me to tell me who's contributing more than others, right? Which cylinder is contributing more than others. But again, this is just a basic health test. For the customer, it helps him, you know, so just keeps him aware of what's going on with the engine. And he can make plans. Hopefully we can catch it before it breaks. So let's go, we'll look at the next one. So the next test would be an exhaust waveform. Again, we're gonna pretty much see the same things where we really don't have a problem because I don't see any leaks. If my intake looks as good as it was looking, then that tells me my exhaust is good because the engine can't breathe, can't work, right? We're gonna have a problem somewhere. So if we're having a problem with an exhaust one, we're gonna have a problem with the intake. And you know, for it to be the way it is, I mean, we're pretty good. You're having a regen problem. 85% of the times, it's coming from the engine. It's not the after-treatment system. The after-treatment the system keeps getting blamed for it because it catches it. It's getting blamed for it because there's misdiagnostics going on there, you know, so it's getting blamed for it because nobody truly understands, or I shouldn't say nobody, there's some really good people out there, but many people don't truly understand what's going on or how it works or why it's doing what it's doing or when it's doing it or so on and so forth. We're also using the OEM software. I mean, you're connecting to it with Cummins, you know, Diagnostic Link, Packard, you name it. It's all, what are they designed to do? They're designed to sell parts. Why? I mean, they're the dealership, right? I mean, that's what they do, right? They're trying to keep it proprietary. The manufacturers have contracts with these dealerships, right? So it only makes sense. So the troubleshooting steps that they go through, I mean, for one, it takes forever to get it done. Two, it's not all that accurate. And three, well, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just selling parts, throwing parts at this truck, right? And the idea is not to do that. Anyway, these are some of the things that we do. Like I said, there's really nothing wrong with this truck. I wish I could show you something was wrong with this truck. Really, it's just in here for a PM and inspection and some minor stuff. But I thought about showing you the health test. I'll show you some more in the future. We can do things like injectors. I mean, we can check the injection system, right? And we can, you know, see if we got any leaking injectors, see if they're performing, you know, the way they're supposed to, right? Oh, let me show you something real quick while we're at it. Okay, so right there, I mean, you know, I'm hooked to unit pump, you know, number 2, right? For you, though, you guys that know about these Mercedes engines, it's a unit pump, not an injector. An injector is inside the axle solenoid and what have you is on the outside, so they call it a unit pump. Anyway, like I said, we did the which one was this? The crankcase pressure, but I am synced to number 2 unit pump, right? Well, another thing that I can do right here is let me try to do this. Okay, I can measure the pulse width of the injector. So that would be 23.27 milliseconds, okay? This is a way to let me know that I'm having a problem with an injector. If I got an injector that's leaking, the ECM is gonna try to cut back on it, right? I mean, if it's overfueling, it's burning rich, it's gonna try to lean it back out. We're gonna take fuel away, and the way the ECM does that is to shorten the pulse width. If it's lean, we're not getting enough fuel. Maybe we got a plugged up injector and it's not injecting the way it's supposed to, and the ECM figures that out. It's not working. So we're gonna inject some more fuel, so we'll widen the pulse width. So these are some of the ways that I can figure out that we have a bad injector or a leaking injector or something that's not working right. I mean, sometimes it's on the mechanical side. It's not the solenoid that's bad. It's the mechanical side of the injector that's bad, right? How are you gonna see that? Your laptop's not gonna show it to you. Software's not gonna show it to you. So you have to do things like measure the fuel and so on and so forth. And there's some pretty cool ways that we can do that with this scope. Okay, so anyway, I was gonna try to show you something like when I'm doing that relative compression test, you know, I can actually look at the commutators on the starter. You know, we can see if we got a starter that's going bad. And this one actually has one that's got just a little dip to it. It's not real bad. It's something we need to keep an eye on though, because it's just gonna keep getting worse. And sooner or later, when that starter stops, it's gonna land on that commutator, right? And then when you go to try to start it, it's not gonna crank, right? Right now, like I said, it's very, very, very little. I mean, but it's there. in time, it will go bad, but it's something we keep our eye on. I can let the customer know that. He can make plans for it somewhere in the future. This way he's not broke down somewhere, stuck. I couldn't get my settings right when I did it. I mean, I didn't do my settings right. So I couldn't show you those steps the way that I want to, because they're little steps. As it's cranking up, there's little steps. And one of the little steps is missing. All right, we have a little bit of a dropout. It's just, like I said, it's very little. But again, in the future, I'll show you some more when I get some. But anyway, just thought I'd let you know. So I hope you guys, it helps you out in some way. Maybe, like I said, I'm a visual type person. It helps me to understand a little bit better, so I can see things happening. Now I can actually see the piston moving up and down. I can actually see valves opening and closing. I can actually see injectors opening and closing. I can see rocker arms, doing their things. This helps me in so many ways when it comes to diagging the truck. When I look at the scan tool, it's just a bunch of numbers, and it's really hard to take that number and then make a visual picture out of it. And you got to do several of them, right? I mean, it's not just one number. You got to do several of them. But anyway, this is a way that we do it. Hope that helps you out. Like and subscribe, and have a great day.